I'd owned the property for 10 years, a modest ranch with a serene lake at its heart. It was my wife Emily's dream, a place we had worked for together until she passed. Every Friday night, I would come back to this spot, set up camp, and relive the memories of when she was still here. It was my way of keeping her close. The fire would crackle, and I could almost hear her laugh as the wind rustled through the trees. It was perfect, but one night, everything changed. The sirens came out of nowhere, tearing through the stillness like a nightmare. Red and blue lights flickered off the water as 2 patrol cars pulled up. I recognized one of the officers immediately, Deputy Brian Walsh, a high school friend. Behind him, strutting in heels that had no place on ranch land, was the real troublemaker Patricia Ellison, the president of the Crestview Heights HOA. She marched up to me with a smug expression, pointing at me like I was some kind of criminal. "That's him, officer," she said, her voice dripping with authority. "This man is trespassing on HOA land." Brian hesitated, glancing at me before speaking. "Dan, I'm sorry, but we got a complaint. Mrs. Ellison says this lake belongs to Crestview Heights." I stood up, frustration bubbling up inside me. This was my land, my lake. My parents' legacy, my memories with Emily, all tied to this place. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the land ownership papers, proof that every square inch of this ranch, including the lake, was mine. "Brian, you know me better than this," I said, my voice calm but firm. "I've owned this ranch for 10 years. I bought it with every penny my parents left me. These papers prove it all. This land, this lake, it's mine." Patty snatched the papers from me with a flick of her fingers, her nails glinting in the firelight. "These could be fake, just like his claim," she sneered. "Everyone knows this lake is part of our community's watershed rights." Brian looked uncomfortable, shifting from foot to foot, his eyes darting between me and Patty. "Dan, I'm just doing my job. I have to ask you to pack up and head home for tonight while we figure this out." I could feel my fists clenching. Involuntarily, the injustice of it all was too much. Here I was, being run off my own land by a suburban queen who thought she could do whatever she wanted because of her HOA. I turned away, gathering my camping gear with sharp, angry movements. "This land's mine, Patty. Your lies won't change that," I muttered under my breath. Patty, however, just smiled, a smug, superior smile. "This land isn't yours, buddy. Soon, everyone will know it." Her words stung like a slap, but I kept walking, throwing my gear into the truck bed. Brian walked me to my truck, his hand on my shoulder, but his words felt hollow. "I'll get this sorted, Dan, I promise," he said. But I knew better. Patty had already won for the night. I pulled away, the sound of my tires crunching over gravel drowned out by the fury surging through me. As I drove away, I couldn't help but feel a sense of dread in my gut. This was far from over. My phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen, an unknown number. The message was simple but chilling. "Leave the lake or you'll lose more than land." My heart raced as I pulled over. The message was more than just a threat, it was a warning. I knew Patty wasn't just after my property. She was playing a dangerous game, and I was right in the middle of it. I spent the night poring over documents, land deeds, tax records, everything that proved the lake belonged to me. But something caught my eye on the town hall map, something I'd never noticed before. In faded ink, someone had written the word "shared" right where my lake was. My stomach churned as I traced the word with my finger. Was this the ammunition Patty thought she had? The next morning, I called Evelyn Harper, a local historian who'd lived here long before Crestview Heights was even a thing. She was my best hope of finding the truth about the land. "I was waiting for your call, Dan," Evelyn said when she picked up. "Let me guess, Patty's been sniffing around your lake?" I told her about the police visit and the word "shared" on the map, and she laughed dryly. "Honey, I've seen HOA signs pop up on people's land before." Patty's not the first to try and steal what isn't hers. Come by tomorrow morning, and I'll show you something you need to know about her." Hope flared inside me, but it was short-lived when I saw the email from Patty that night. It was a cease and desist letter, demanding I stop trespassing on HOA property. The audacity of it made me laugh at first, but that laugh died when I saw the attached photos of me camping at the lake, taken from various angles, dates stamped over the past several months. Someone had been watching me, documenting my every move like I was a criminal. The knock on my door the next morning came too soon. I opened it to find Todd Brennan, one of Patty's HOA board members. His nervous grin didn't fool me for a second. "Mr. Carver," he started, "I'm here with a generous offer from the HOA. Sign over the lake rights, and this will all go away. No legal battles, no public embarrassment. Mrs. Ellison is even prepared to offer compensation for your cooperation." I wasn't stupid. I could see what they were trying to do. "And if I don't sign?" I asked, already knowing the answer. Todd's grin faltered, his true colors showing. "Then you'll lose everything, the lake, the ranch, maybe even your job." The threat was clear. But I wasn't backing down. "Go ahead, Todd," I said, my voice steady. "My papers don't just talk, they win." Todd hesitated, looking over his shoulder before walking away, clearly shaken. I spent the rest of the day with Evelyn, learning what I could about Patty's past. It seemed that this wasn't the first time she'd tried to steal land. Evelyn had a court filing from years ago showing that the HOA had lost a similar case when they tried to claim water rights from the Garrison family, who had been forced out. But what really shocked me was Evelyn's discovery about Patty's history in Nevada, a history of fraud, land theft, and legal battles that ended in disaster. Evelyn handed me a photo of Patty standing by a lake that looked eerily like mine. She was holding a canister with hazard symbols on it. My blood ran cold as I realized Patty's ambitions were darker than I'd ever imagined. That night, I set up hidden cameras around my lake, determined to catch Patty in the act. The next morning I received a threat: "Give up or your lake's next." But I wasn't giving up. Not now. The next few days passed in a blur. Every moment was spent reviewing the evidence I had, organizing it, and preparing for what was coming. Patty thought she had won, but she had no idea what was about to hit her. I spent sleepless nights staring at my laptop, analyzing the footage from my hidden cameras, waiting for her to make her next move. And then, just after midnight, she made her move. The footage was grainy, but the outline was clear, a cloaked figure moving swiftly through the trees toward the lake. The figure, I soon realized, was none other than Patty herself, carrying an industrial-sized container. She knelt by the water's edge, and I watched in horror as she uncapped the container and poured a dark, toxic substance into my lake. The substance spread out like oil, poisoning the water, destroying everything that had been there. I could almost smell the chemicals from the screen. I didn't hesitate. I saved the footage to multiple drives, backing it up over and over. This wasn't just a battle for property anymore. It was a fight for the very soul of this place. Emily's words echoed in my mind. "This lake's our home." The next morning, I headed straight to the sheriff's office where I found Brian, hunched over his desk. The look on his face was one of guilt, and it only deepened when he saw what was on the flash drive I handed him. "Jesus, Dan," Brian whispered as he watched Patty pour the toxic substance into my lake. His face paled as he saw her smugness, the way she handled it like she had done it 1,000 times before. I knew she was pushy, but this ... "I need you to help me, Brian. I need you to do the right thing this time," I said, my voice calm but urgent. Brian sighed, rubbing his face. "I'll open an investigation. This is destruction of property, illegal dumping, environmental crimes. Patty's going down." I nodded, but I knew this was just the beginning. The wheels of justice turned slowly, and I couldn't afford to wait. I needed to act fast. I spent the next few hours drafting a letter to Patty. It was a surrender letter of sorts, a letter designed to bait her into making a mistake. I played the part of a man who had given up, someone who couldn't fight anymore. But the truth was, I was setting my trap. "Mrs. Ellison," I wrote, "I can't fight this anymore. I'll sign whatever papers you want. Just please stop destroying the only thing I have left of my wife." The letter was a lie, every word carefully chosen to feed her ego and make her believe she had won. I had already planned the next steps. Evelyn delivered the letter, playing her part perfectly. It didn't take long for Patty to crow about her victory, throwing a lavish party to celebrate. But while Patty celebrated, I was building my case. Todd Brennan, one of her board members, came to me in secret. He was terrified, and I could see the fear in his eyes. "She's lost it, Dan," he whispered. "She's planning something worse than the lake." Todd was a coward, but his fear gave me leverage. He agreed to testify, to tell the truth about Patty's corruption and the lengths she'd gone to in order to steal land. I wasn't about to let Patty get away with this. The next few days were a whirlwind of gathering evidence. I spoke to former neighbors, collected testimonies, and researched Patty's past. The deeper I dug, the uglier the picture became. Patty's reputation in Nevada had been destroyed years ago, but no one knew about it here. Now the truth was coming to light. Evelyn and I worked together to build a timeline of Patty's actions, how she had systematically targeted properties for years, using intimidation, legal manipulation, and outright theft. Every document we gathered was another nail in her coffin. Then, the final blow came. Todd contacted me late one night, breathless with fear. "She's hired thugs, Dan. They're coming for your ranch tonight. They're going to destroy everything." I had already anticipated something like this. My cameras were ready, hidden in birdhouses and fence posts, capturing everything. Just after midnight, 5 masked men appeared at my lake, spray painting obscenities on my dock, dumping construction debris into the water. One of them even smashed my birdhouses with a baseball bat, laughing as they destroyed everything Emily and I had built together. But the best part was when one of the men removed his mask to smoke. His face was familiar. He was from the Dallas law firm Patty had hired. These weren't just random vandals. They were professionals, hired to intimidate me and destroy what I loved. I saved every frame of the footage, knowing this would be the final piece of evidence I needed to bring Patty down once and for all. The day of the trial arrived, and the courtroom was packed. The press had already picked up on the story, and people were lining up to witness what would be the downfall of Patricia Ellison. I stood in the back of the room as Patty's lawyer tried to paint me as the villain, claiming the videos were doctored and that I was just a bitter man seeking revenge. But the moment I played the footage of the thugs destroying my property, everything changed. The judge's face went from disbelief to disgust, and Patty's lawyer couldn't do anything to stop it. "This is clear documentation of criminal activity," the judge said, his voice cutting through the tension. "I'm ordering an immediate review of all property records involving the Crestview Heights HOA. Patty's face turned pale as the evidence mounted against her. She tried to claim that the videos were fake, but her lies couldn't hold up under the weight of the facts. And then Todd took the stand. Todd's testimony was the final nail in the coffin. He described everything, the threats, the bribes, the intimidation. And when he mentioned how Patty had personally directed the destruction of my lake, it was over. Patty's world crumbled before her eyes. The judge's gavel came down with finality, and Patty was removed from her position as HOA president. The judge ordered an investigation into the HOA's practices, and it wasn't long before Patty's dirty dealings were exposed to the public. But the real irony came when I made my own announcement. "I have an announcement," I said to the crowd, pulling out a deed that made several board members gasp. "Last month, I purchased 40 acres of Crestview Heights. including the community center, the pool, and the golf course. As of today, I am dissolving the current HOA board structure and calling for new elections. The silence in the room was deafening. Patty's smug smile faltered as she realized what had just happened. She had spent years exploiting the HOA's power, but now, the tables had turned. I left the courthouse victorious, and soon after, the community rallied behind me. The public outcry against Patty grew louder, and the media covered every aspect of her downfall. The lake, once poisoned by greed, was restored. And it was no longer just a symbol of my past with Emily, it was a symbol of justice. A victory against corruption. As the sun set over the lake that evening, I stood on the shore, Emily's memory still fresh in my mind. "This lake's our home," I whispered to the wind, knowing that the fight for what was ours was far from over, but I had won.